Someone asked, what is equanimity? I'm not sure I know what that is. I went ahead and kind of took an informal poll of everyone I know. I asked everyone I know, hey, what's your kind of definition of equanimity for yourself and whatever. Well, got a few very interesting and beautiful thoughts, but by and large, what I realize is it's not a common term. We don't use it much in our kind of day to day. So it's something worth spending time on, and for other reasons as well. We'll talk about it more, but one of the most important would be that equanimity is, it's honestly one of the most important things that we work for in our practice. So it's really, really important to know what it is according to these teachings, anyway. So, as per usual, I looked it up in the dictionary. So, just thanks to my mom for being a lover of the dictionary and passing that love down to me. And the dictionary, so equanimity actually it comes from the Latin equa, meaning even, equal, equa, even, and anime is like mind, the mind heart, so an even mind. A dictionary definition, equanimity is a noun, and they have there's four definitions of it, I guess. So I'll just read those to you now. First one, the quality of being calm and even tempered, composure. Okay, great. We all want to be calm and even tempered, right? Number two, evenness of mind, the calm temper or firmness of mind, which is not easily elated or depressed. Number three, the state of being calm, stable, and composed, especially under stress. Especially under stress. And steadiness of mind under stress is number four, kind of the same as number three. So they're pointing to stress. So equanimity has something to do with stress. That reminded me of how I got into this practice myself, which was I was in a very, very stressful point in my life. And about 10 or 11 years ago, and took an MBSR course, mindfulness based stress reduction, which is basically Buddhism in disguise. So, stress. Okay. So, equanimity is not something we bandy about in our common life here, this Western life we live. But as a Buddhist concept, it is a very, very important one. So, last week's talk, we spoke of the judging mind versus the discerning mind. And I know some of you weren't here last week. The judging mind versus the discerning mind, we spoke about this idea that how we relate to things that we think about is incredibly important. And the judging mind is characterized by this very reactive mind-body activity, and the discerning mind is accompanied by equanimity. Equanimity. And one of the examples that I gave was because it's very interesting, having this sense, having equanimity is a very personal thing. Of course, other people can tell, but it's really something that happens within your own mind. And the example I gave was somebody walks into the space that you're in and they happen to be a, kind of a false person, not really truthful, or there's something about them that's inauthentic, and you don't like that. So they come into the room, and so you have an opinion about this person. Oh, they're false. They're not truthful. You know, that's an unpleasant opinion, but it's an opinion nonetheless. And the difference between having a judging mind and a discerning mind, this judging mind that traps us in our suffering, basically is accompanied by aversion. So this person walks in, we have our opinion, they're untruthful, they're false, and we have aversion to that fact. So there's something in us that hates it. If we're at a point where we're in our discerning mind, where we're able to access a discerning mind, that same person walks in, we have the same opinion that they are false and untruthful, and we do not have aversion. There is non-aversion. There is acceptance of this reality. It's a more expansive way to hold our opinion about this person. It naturally encompasses more space. It naturally holds more compassion. I still have this same opinion. Yes, this is how you are. And I can see beyond that you're this way. There's more creativity, there's more flexibility, et cetera, et cetera. And that is an example. That's a, kind of a good example of what equanimity looks like. There's a great metaphor. So equanimity kind of looks like, there's the rope metaphor where you're holding on to a rope. Say you're in a ship in the ocean, in a big ship in the ocean, and for some reason your hands are on the rope that are connected to the anchor, but the anchor is flying down and that rope is coarse and you're holding it with your hands and it's cutting into your hands. It's causing you pain. The anchor is so much heavier than you. There's no way you can hold this anchor from going, and yet you're holding it. And when you suddenly realize that there's no point to holding that rope, it's going to go regardless of what you're doing, and you let go, that mental movement, when you realize that no matter what you do, this is going to be the way it's going to be, you let your hands go, you're still there, you're still with the rope, but you're not grasping the rope. And your suffering releases. And this is similar. This is a flavor of equanimity. It's this seeing that this rope, and so what do I mean that this rope is going to keep pulling, and that the rope's not going to hit the bottom of the ocean, because this rope is a metaphor for life. Like life keeps passing us. Every moment, every inhale and exhale, the moment we say this is the now is gone. Like this is time. Time is this continuous march. And there's absolutely nothing that we can do to stop time, no matter how much we think we can and that we try. Events go. And when we grasp on and want things to stop, we cause ourselves pain. And that's the opposite of equanimity, is holding on and wanting things to stop because we want them to. I'll say a little bit more about that. That ties very closely to. Well, I'll share that a little bit later. I have a nice quote on that line. Well, no, let me mention it now. So I'm going to quote Christina Feldman from The Boundless Heart. I don't know if some of you know that I've been reading this book. Very nice. It's on the 4 Brahma Viharas. So connecting to this rope metaphor, she points to this idea of developing equanimity as one of the most important and powerful insights that we can have as practitioners, as a way to alleviate our suffering. And it's this insight into impermanence. It's so important. So, and as you know, the impermanence is one of the 3 marks of existence, right? There's impermanence, dukkha, there's suffering, stress, and there's selflessness. There's this idea that we are completely reliant on every other condition in the universe for our own existence. So, but impermanence is one that's it's really wonderful because you can see it in your everyday life. And when you see it and you accept it, you understand it, it helps to cultivate equanimity. And I'll read a quote from Christina Feldman. This is a beautiful, beautiful quote. Something to really be drunken in, if that's grammatically correct. Written upon every single thing, event, and person that comes into being, that is born, is the story of its passing and its death. Everything that is built will in time collapse. Everything that is joined will in time be separated. Everything that is stored will in time run out. Everything that appears will in time fade. Whew. Yeah. Seeing this isn't a rejection of this world. Seeing this it's just acceptance that all phenomena fade away. This is how it is. This is how the story was written. And the more we can appreciate that, the closer we will come to equanimity. I've heard this story. I don't know where it's from, but it's a nice story regarding impermanence. It's like children at the beach playing and making sand castles for themselves. So they're building their sand castles, and one guy decides he's going to go over and kick the other guy's sandcastle over. Then that guy gets mad at him, and then they all beat him up or whatever. But at the end of the day, the kids all leave the beach, they go home, the tide comes in, and it washes it all away. That is how it is. And when we see this, it helps us to release our grasping. It helps us to release our grasping. And there's a nice practice that's helpful. It's very graceful, I think. It's very challenging as well. But when you contemplate impermanence, you can look at the stages of every phenomenon in your life. So, for example, this class has a beginning, then it has a middle, and then it has an end. Same with your cup of coffee, same with a visit of a friend, same with a breath. Everything has a beginning and a middle and an end. And there's this beautiful practice where we notice the beginnings of things and we notice the endings of things, especially. Because endings are always hard. I don't know why. Impermanence is something that just, it's not easy. And yet, the more we can really know it, the better off we are. And so it's a beautiful practice to notice endings. And maybe you can do that for your homework this week. Whatever it is, whatever you notice most easily, notice those endings. I think so one other thing I wanted to mention about equanimity is that, and I think most of you are familiar with this, it's one of the 4 Brahma Viharas. It's one of the 4 divine abodes. And the Brahma Viharas are mulch for our garden. And I don't mean the mulch that those lawn guys put down that they take out of the bags. I mean the mulch that, like, that compost that, your grandparents used to make, or with the garden scraps. It's rich. It turns into this rich soil that's full of earthworms. And the Brahma Viharas, that's how we mulch our sort of inner garden. And the 4 Brahma Viharas are metta. Metta's the first really powerful one, loving kindness. Then there is karuna, which is compassion, understanding people's suffering and our own. The third one is mudita. Mudita is this beautiful thing when you're able to be happy for other people's success, the opposite of jealousy. And the last one mentioned, this one always comes last, is upekkha. Upekkha. Now, upekkha is translated as equanimity. And I think there's a reason that it's last, because I think it's the most challenging. But it's also the most transformational. It's the most powerful insight there is. Or practice, I should say. The insight is the insight into impermanence, and the equanimity is this state to be cultivated. Like a good gardener, we cultivate that state. And I think so before we close, I want to mention what equanimity is not. It's pretty important to know what it's not. And what equanimity is not is it's not nihilism. It's not shutting out what you don't like. It's not turning away. It's not ignoring your experience or other people's experience. It's really this quality of looking straight on to something without freaking out. And in my experience, because, life is messy and it feels messier all the time, you have to work within your window of tolerance with stress, with stressful things in your life. Meaning, so what I'm saying is equanimity isn't shutting things out. However, there's things that are going to come through your world that are very stressful. Maybe a political figure that you see on television or you read about in the newspaper. You don't want to shut out. However, you want to titrate. I don't know if there's any chemists here, but there's this idea of titrating, which is you turn the faucet on and you let out a few drops, and it drops into your solution. And you want to go very slowly, because if you put in too many drops, you wreck the experiment. And it's similar with our minds. We have to be careful how much of these stressors we let in. So it's a conscious movement. So we're not just saying, oh, I hate that and I'm never going to look at that again, or I'm never going to interact with that person again because I can't deal with it. That's too stressful. It's more of saying, yes, that's very stressful for me. Let me work with my boundaries over every moment as I walk through my life. Let me just keep checking in. Do I have more tolerance for that now? Check it. If not, then moving away. If yes, let a little bit in, like that.